Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. After finishing breakfast with mixed feelings, Roxanne led Estella out of the dining room. She had barely stepped out when she noticed the prevailing tension in the living room. The brothers were kneeling on the couch with stern looks on their faces, keeping a close eye on Lucian, who was standing at the side as if he had gravely offended them. When she saw the boys' expressions, Roxanne couldn't help frowning. She had assumed that they resented Lucian because of her. However, she recalled that they had been fine with him the very first time all of them met. As of then, her only goal was to stay away from Lucian, but the brothers seemed to be holding a grudge against him. No matter how hard she tried, Roxanne couldn't figure out the reason why. When the brothers saw Roxanne leading Estella out, they shifted their gazes away from Lucian and welcomed the two with vibrant smiles. Mommy. Setting her thoughts aside, Roxanne reciprocated with a grin of her own. Archie and Benny gave Estella a warm look. Is Essie going to kindergarten with us? Roxanne glanced at Lucian. That was what she had decided during breakfast, but she was unsure of his stance. Without a word, Lucian stepped right out of the door. Stunned, Roxanne led the children out and saw Lucian looking at them from his car. She lowered her head to look at Estella, who let go of her hand. Estella ran up to Lucian's car and stood by the window, giving him a pitiful look. She wanted to be by Roxanne's side. Lucian could naturally tell what his daughter was thinking and also sense the guilt Roxanne felt for the girl. Thus he gave his permission. You can ride with Miss Jarvis. With her eyes glistening in delight, Estella skipped happily back to Roxanne's side. Miss Jarvis, Daddy said I can go with you. Sighing in relief, Roxanne tousled Estella's hair and brought Estella to her car. She had assumed that Lucian would leave after handing Estella over. However, right after she settled the children into the car, she noticed the Bentley in front of them gradually pulling away and driving in the direction of the kindergarten. Roxanne followed the Bentley from behind, puzzled. On the way, the car was filled with the children's excited voices. Estella was visibly ecstatic as she was a lot chattier than usual. After all, it had been a while since she had gone to kindergarten with the brothers. Roxanne couldn't help but think about her dinner with Jonathan the weekend before. He had mentioned Estella's recent mood swings to her. Back then, he had even suggested that Estella's condition might improve if Roxanne stayed with her. At that moment, she could tell that he was right. Nonetheless, she had no right to keep Estella by her side, and Sonia would never allow it. When she saw Estella's vibrant smile in the rearview mirror, a sense of reluctance descended upon her. In fact, she began to wish for their journey to be longer. Before Estella could have enough fun, the kindergarten came into their view. As she watched the Bentley gradually come to a stop, Roxanne, too, stopped her car some distance away before getting out of the car with the children. At the same time, Lucian, with a pink school bag in his hand, alighted from his car and approached them. It was then that Roxanne remembered that Estella's school bag was in his car. What on earth is in that mind of his? He could have handed me the bag and gone straight to the office. Just as Roxanne reached out to take Estella's bag, Lucian retracted his hand with an emotionless expression. He turned around and walked in front of them. Let's go. Roxanne regained her senses only when the children gave her sleeve a tug. She held their hands and followed Lucian from behind. Pippa was already waiting at the kindergarten entrance. At the sight of the group, she smiled and said to Roxanne, Miss Jarvis, it's been a long time since I saw you. Lisa or Madeline had been the ones to bring the children to school recently. There was no denying that some time had passed since Roxanne had last come. It has indeed been a while, Roxanne replied. Did Archie and Benny give you any trouble in class? Pippa quickly waved her hands. Both of them are the most obedient students in class. There's nothing for you to worry about. Relieved by that, Roxanne handed the children over to Pippa. Estella, however, grabbed Roxanne's hand and refused to let go. She was reluctant to part with the latter as a long time had passed since they had last seen each other. Even though Roxanne felt her heart melt over Estella's reluctance to part, she had to steel herself and pry open the little girl's hands. After all, classes were about to start while she too had to go to work. Be a good girl, Essie. I have to go to work now. Why don't you play with Archie and Benny? Displeasure was written all over Estella's face. Seeing that, Archie and Benny quickly held Estella's hand and comforted her. We'll play with you, Essie. There's no need to be sad. Estella wanted to ask Roxanne if she could stay instead of going back overseas, but she decided against it as she was afraid of being disappointed by the answer. As Estella refused to go in, Roxanne couldn't bear to leave as well. Just when she felt lost, Lucian discreetly walked into the space between her and Estella, blocking the latter's view. Ms. Jarvis and I still have to go to work. Since it's time for class now, you should go in together with the brothers. Lucian leaned forward to help Estella wear her school bag. He put his hands on her shoulders authoritatively and turned her around. It was only then that Estella trudged into the kindergarten behind Archie and Benny. Looking at the children's backs, Roxanne sighed to herself. She forced a smile to bid Pippa goodbye before turning around to return to her car. Just when she had taken 2 steps, Lucian's voice rang out from behind her. Are you feeling better? The reason he had agreed to bring Estella to see Roxanne was also to check on the latter's condition. However, they hadn't had the opportunity to speak prior to that moment. Hearing that, Roxanne felt a strange sensation in her heart. Lucian, whose eyes had darkened, was about to continue when he saw her turn around to give him a look. I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Farwell. Roxanne gave him a distant look. Also, I hope you'll avoid bringing Essie to my house going forward. It puts me in a difficult position. Roxanne might not be able to say those words to Estella, but she had no problems doing so to Lucian. Lucian's face fell. You should save those words for Essie. Besides, you, too, are aware of her condition. Once she kicks up a fuss, I have no choice but to give in to her. With that, he got into his car before Roxanne could react. During his drive, Roxanne's scathing words continued to fill his mind. He had thought that bringing Estella to see her would cause her heart to waver. Yet little did he expect her to be so stone-hearted. Despite Essie's concern for her, she could still say something as harsh as not to bring Essie to see her anymore. Roxanne truly hates the sight of me. When Lucian arrived at the office, his expression was as gloomy as ever. Mr. Farwell, Caden greeted respectfully. Mr. Queen came by in the morning and is waiting in your office. Getting a grip of himself, Lucian nodded in acknowledgement before walking to his office with Caden following closely behind. The moment he stepped in, he saw Jonathan sitting languidly on the couch with some documents beside him. At the sight of Lucian, Jonathan picked up the papers with a smile and took a seat opposite the former at his desk. With a raised brow, he inquired, "Why are you late today?" Lucian furrowed his brows. "I dropped Estella off at the kindergarten." Jonathan nodded knowingly, then handed him the documents and began their discussion on the project. Due to the two families' close relationship and the many happy collaborations they had previously shared, the two men managed to wrap up their discussion quickly. Despite getting the conclusion he was looking for, Jonathan didn't leave at once. Instead, he shifted the topic over to Roxanne. By the way, my contact in Summerbank has called me saying that the partnership negotiations with Dr. Jarvis have been completed. From the looks of it, everything is proceeding smoothly. Jonathan was indirectly trying to claim credit from Lucian. At the mention of Roxanne, Lucian couldn't help but think of her earlier words, which caused a gloomy expression to descend upon his face. Baffled by his friend's reaction, which was the opposite of what he had expected, Jonathan wrinkled his brows. Why do you look upset when I bring up Dr. Jarvis? Did something happen between the two of you that I don't know of? Before Lucian could respond, Jonathan advised him in a solemn tone, everyone knows how you treated Dr. Jarvis back then. Consequently, you will have to be patient in your quest to win her back. Also, don't forget that she's a woman and also Essie's birth mother. That alone requires you to bear with her. I know, Lucian replied noncommittally. Having only received a cursory answer to his well-intentioned advice, Jonathan was momentarily stunned. What do you know? Lucian swept a glance at him. The collaboration with Roxanne is going well. In other words, everything Jonathan had said just now was for naught. Jonathan sighed in resignation. Suddenly struck by the meaning behind Lucian's words, he gave him a puzzled look. How did you know? All this while I have been responsible for liaising with the medicinal herb supplier from Summerbank. As for Roxanne, she will definitely not inform Lucian of the matter on her own accord. Holding that thought, Jonathan gave his friend a suspicious look. Did he get his men to spy on Dr. Jarvis? I went to Summerbank in the last 2 days and only returned yesterday, Lucian said casually. Surprised, Jonathan gave the matter further thought and realized that the period Lucian had traveled coincided with Roxanne's. On top of that, he recalled Lucian asking him specifically for the time of Roxanne's visit to Summerbank. In that case, it does make sense if Lucian, too, traveled to Summerbank after learning of Roxanne's trip. Furthermore, he would definitely have attended the banquet held on that particular evening. No wonder you asked me previously about when Dr. Jarvis was traveling to Summerbank. And yet I was thinking that you were pestering me about my job. Little did I expect that it was for selfish reasons. Jonathan teased Lucian when he finally connected the dots. Lucian responded with a silent but grim look on his face. I did do it for my own selfish reasons, but Roxanne wasn't grateful at all. Raising his brows, Jonathan pressed on, in that case, you must have attended the banquet that night. So how did it go? Did you make any progress with her? As soon as he said those words, he saw the gloomy look on Lucian's face. Looks like it's obvious that there isn't any improvement at all. Jonathan was still confounded by the situation. Despite all that Lucian has done to pursue her, why is she still unmoved? This is the first time I have seen Lucian put so much effort into courting a lady. Anyone else in Roxanne's position would have thrown herself unreservedly into his arms. For Dr. Jarvis to have caused Lucian so much grief, she truly is one of a kind. That aside, what's this friend of mine thinking? Why won't he give up on the woman who keeps infuriating him? Confused by it all, Jonathan couldn't help but ask, is she still ignoring you like before? Lucian furrowed his brows and remained silent. Lucian, what do you plan to do about Dr. Jarvis? You've done so much for her, but she continues to disregard your feelings. Are you sure you want to keep this up? Jonathan just couldn't imagine how much his friend coveted Roxanne. At the side, Caden, who had heard the comment, snuck a glance at Lucian and recalled Roxanne's frosty attitude toward his boss. Ever since she returned to the Chanaye, he had always been there to witness all of Lucian and Roxanne's interactions. It was obvious to him that Roxanne was trying her best to avoid Lucian. Yet Lucian had never stopped showing his concern for her. This time it looks like Mr. Farwell's feelings are for real. With that thought in mind, Caden tactfully replied on behalf of Lucian. Mr. Queen. Considering how well you know Mr. Farwell, I'm sure it's obvious to you how serious he is in getting Miss Jarvis to stay by his side. Just as he spoke, both men turned toward Lucian to see his reaction. Lucian's ensuing silence was an implicit acknowledgement of Caden's words. Jonathan pondered a moment before replying with a smile, in that case, I'll definitely help you come up with a plan. Didn't you previously mention that you wanted me to get her to stay instead of going overseas? Lucian cocked his brow slightly, cognizant of what Jonathan's plan was. Now that the issues at the Research Institute have been resolved, Dr. Jarvis would likely return overseas once the Institute's collaboration with the few companies has stabilized, Jonathan analyzed calmly. Lucian's face darkened. It's true that considering her current attitude toward me, she will leave without hesitation once her job is done. If I don't send someone to keep an eye on her, she could leave without me knowing. The thought of Roxanne disappearing from his life again caused him to furrow his brows. He asked Jonathan, "What do you suggest?" Sensing his friend's anger, Jonathan cracked a confident smile. "Don't forget about what I do for a living. As someone from the medical industry, I know better than anyone else what Dr. Jarvis wants. If I'm not mistaken, she specializes in traditional medicine. In that case, there's no way she will refuse the opportunity I'm going to provide her with." Seeing that Jonathan was full of confidence, Lucian asked, "What is it?" "Stop keeping me in suspense." Jonathan broke into a casual smile. "To further develop traditional medicine, our country provides the best environment to do so. I'm sure that was Dr. Jarvis' objective when she chose to return. It's just..." Here, Jonathan threw Lucian a glance. There was no need for him to finish his sentence. Roxanne had come back to Chanaye so that she could expand the field of traditional medicine. Unfortunately, she didn't expect to run into the Farwell family and be forced to leave. Meeting Jonathan's gaze, the frustrated Lucian grimaced. "But if the proposition is attractive enough, I'm sure Dr. Jarvis will be willing to stay for the sake of traditional medicine research," Jonathan said. "I'm sure you have heard about the prestigious families who live in seclusion within Chanaye. Among them, the Damaris family used to cause waves within the field of ancient medicine. Unfortunately, they gradually faded out of the public eye. But they have recently prepared to come out of seclusion to provide medical consultation. I'm sure Dr. Jarvis will be interested in the matter." Even Lucian couldn't help but be shocked when he heard about the Damaris family. At present, the most prestigious family within the medical fraternity in Horrington was the Queen family. Even then, they paled in comparison to the Damaris family. For generations, the Damaris family had worked closely with traditional medicine practitioners. In fact, legend had it that their ancestor was once a royal doctor who not only possessed extraordinary medical skills but had kept a collection of books on ancient medicine from the palace. Subsequently, these books were handed down through the generations to this day. Whenever someone doubted the family's heritage, they would prove their skills and the authenticity of their medical books, humiliating their detractors in the process. At present, those ancient medicine books had naturally become priceless treasures. Having stayed away from the limelight for a long period of time, the Damaris family had been revealing themselves slowly again. Every few years, they would send someone out to provide medical consultation, although the time was never fixed. Whoever needed their services would have to rely on luck. Despite being one of the most prestigious families in Horrington's medical circle, the Queen family only got wind of the matter because of Alfred's relationship with the Damaris family. Since Roxanne specialized in traditional medicine, she would definitely have heard of the Damaris family. Therefore, if she were to learn about the Damaris family's medical consultation, it might be reason enough for her to stay back in Chanaye. When Jonathan saw the thoughtful expression on his friend's face, he dropped another bomb with a smile. And on top of that, the Damaris family isn't just stopping at providing medical consultation this time. I heard that after the event, they plan to set up a research institute in Chanaye to further expand the influence of traditional medicine. They will be looking for other organizations to collaborate with. In my opinion, other than Dr. Jarvis Research Institute, no one else is worthy enough to do so. I'm sure Dr. Jarvis will take the initiative to work with them once she learns of this news. Putting aside the fact that he was trying to help out a friend, Jonathan meant what he said. After all, he had seen Roxanne's medical skills with his very own eyes. Throughout the years, none of the famous doctors from all over the world had been able to cure Alfred until Roxanne appeared. No one else in China was more skilled than Roxanne when it came to traditional medicine. Jonathan had planned to take advantage of the opportunity on behalf of Queen Group. After all, the Damaris family would probably work with them out of respect for Alfred. However, if Roxanne was to be his competitor, he was more than happy to step aside to give her the opportunity. After all, Queen Group was already working with Roxanne's research institute and would, by association, be collaborating with the Damaris family too. After Lucian heard Jonathan's explanation, his expression began to soften. He was well aware of Roxanne's personality. Traditional medicine was undoubtedly one of the most important things in Roxanne's life. If such an opportunity were to fall into her hands, Roxanne would most definitely choose to stay in China and fight for the chance to collaborate with the Damaris family. What do you think of my idea? Jonathan smiled proudly. A small smile appeared on Lucian's face. Not bad. If you can make her stay, I'll owe you a favor. Farwell Group did not venture deep into the medical industry and did not have many connections with the Damaris family. In other words, Lucian did not have much say in that matter. Even if he did manage to score Roxanne an opportunity with the Damaris family, Roxanne might still reject the offer if Lucian was the one telling her about it. It would be too huge of a loss if that were to happen. However, if Jonathan was the one who brought Roxanne the news, it would seem a lot more official. Jonathan arched an eyebrow slyly in response. You can repay me by giving me a monetary gift when you two get married. With that, Jonathan stood up and left before Lucian could say another word. After Jonathan exited Farwell Group, he did not go back to his company. Instead, he headed straight for the Queen residence. He had thought through the plan and decided that it would be far more convincing if Alfred were to tell Roxanne the news instead of himself. If Alfred personally informed Roxanne about the opportunity, chances were she would not think there was anything else to it. As Jonathan stepped foot into the house, Alfred was exercising with the help of a caregiver. Upon seeing Jonathan's sudden return, Alfred asked in confusion, "You're back already? Is there no more work back at the office?" Jonathan walked over to help support Alfred's other arm with a smile. "Actually, Grandpa, I'm here to discuss something with you." Alfred nodded slightly. "Go ahead." "It's about the medical consultation held by the Damaris family. Is it all right if I ask you to talk to the Damaris family about Dr. Jarvis so that she can join the consultation?" Jonathan asked. Alfred was acquainted with the Damaris family. He might have a say in the medical consultation. Immediately Alfred nodded. "Of course. I have already intended to do so even if you didn't ask me to." The Queen family had been in the business of supplying herbs for ages. That being said, the family had impeccable respect for traditional medicine. In all his years in the industry, Alfred had never met anyone else as established in traditional medicine as Roxanne at such a young age, except for the Damaris family. Needless to say, Alfred would not miss such a golden opportunity. Moreover, Alfred could see Roxanne's passion for traditional medicine and knew how precious the opportunity would be to Roxanne. The moment Alfred found out that the Damaris family would be having a medical consultation, he had already planned to introduce Roxanne to the Damaris family. Seeing that Alfred shared the same train of thought, Jonathan breathed a soft sigh of relief. So, regarding the partnership with the Damaris family at the Research Institute, he asked cautiously, testing the waters. Naturally, Alfred caught on to what Jonathan was implying. Instantly he tossed a meaningful gaze at his grandson. "Do you have feelings for Dr. Jarvis?" Jonathan was rendered speechless. He had no other feelings for Roxanne except admiration. Furthermore, Roxanne was someone Lucian had his eye on. How could Jonathan betray his friendship with Lucian by catching feelings for Roxanne? To his dismay, everyone seemed to have a misunderstanding on that matter, and he was beyond exasperated. At the sight of Jonathan's expression, Alfred realized that he had been mistaken and flashed his grandson an understanding smile. Okay. Now, regarding the issue, the Damaris family are the ones looking for a partner. They will be the ones with the final say. I do not have much say in this matter. I'm just informing you beforehand. When it comes down to the Queen family and Dr. Jarvis, and the Damaris family chooses Dr. Jarvis Research Institute over ours, please don't be disappointed. Alfred merely chuckled nonchalantly. Dr. Jarvis is a skilled competitor. Besides, if the Damaris family believes that she's a better fit, what is there for me to say? Don't worry. There will be no disappointments on my end. Seeing how open-minded Alfred was regarding the matter, Jonathan felt relieved. In that case, I will need your help to inform Dr. Jarvis about this opportunity. Alfred agreed without any hesitation. That night, Roxanne went personally to the Queen residence to show her gratitude. During dinner time, Alfred conveniently brought up the news regarding the Damaris family. Dr. Jarvis, the Damaris family is planning to have a medical consultation. Would you be interested in being a part of it? If you're interested, I can help introduce you to them. The shock was written all over Roxanne's face. Even though she had mostly been living overseas, the Damaris family was no stranger to her. In the world of traditional medicine, the Damaris family was nothing short of legendary. The younger ones in the industry would always hear about the legacy of the Damaris family, yet they rarely stood a chance to meet them in person. Because Roxanne had been overseas for so, it was even harder for her to have any encounter with the Damaris family. Even so, she had longed to meet and interact with them. After all, the Damaris family was extremely skilled in traditional medicine. The family also owned an array of books on traditional medicine that had been passed down from generation to generation. Everything regarding the Damaris family left Roxanne in awe. For her to achieve the medical skills she had as of then, a huge contributing factor was the few ancient books on traditional medicine that Harvey owned. The books owned by the Damaris family were far greater than the ones her professor owned. Every single book was so rare and precious that not even wealth can guarantee someone those books. To those who studied traditional medicine, those books were worth far more than gold or silver. If she got a chance to read those books, or even just to have the guidance of the elders of the Damaris family, Roxanne had no doubt that her medical skills would improve greatly. Before she returned to Chanaye, Roxanne had planned to visit the Damaris family if given the chance. To her disappointment, when she returned to Chanaye, she found out that the Damaris family had withdrawn themselves from society a couple of years ago. It seemed as though the family had stopped interacting with people that they did not know. It would be near impossible for someone like her, a newbie without any foundation, to even touch the doorknob of the Damaris residence. Adding the hindrance of Farwell Group into the picture, Roxanne had no choice but to give up on that plan of hers. When she heard the offer being presented by Alfred, Roxanne felt as though she was dreaming. I'm extremely interested, but would it be too much trouble for you? I heard that the Damaris family had not had any contact with strangers these past few years. At the sight of Roxanne's surprised expression and knowing her undeniable love for traditional medicine, Alfred was delighted. I suppose you can say that I'm acquainted with the Damaris family. It shouldn't be too hard for me to score you a place in the medical consultation, Alfred reassured with a smile. But if I were to curry favor on your behalf, you must perform exceptionally. Don't embarrass me. Even after hearing Alfred's words, Roxanne was still a little hesitant. Old Mr. Queen, the Queen family has already blessed me greatly. You don't need to do this for me. Before she could even finish speaking, Alfred glared at her in disagreement. Roxanne quickly went silent. "You saved my life. You deserve every bit of the things the Queen family has given you. Plus, I'm willing to introduce you to the Damaris family. It's a decision I have put a lot of thought into. As a prestigious family in the medical world, people like me are supposed to support bright, young people like you. There aren't a lot of young people specializing in traditional medicine in China anymore. You have a lot of potential in you. If you can get the chance to interact with the Damaris family, it can serve as an opportunity for you to hone and improve your medical skills. If you miss this opportunity, even I will feel sorry for you." At this moment, Jonathan chimed in, "Indeed. Dr. Jarvis, I have seen your medical skills with my own eyes. Not to mention that the Damaris family is planning to build a research institute in China after the medical consultation. They're looking for a partner. If you can get their attention from the medical consultation, your research institute might stand a chance to collaborate with them." Roxanne felt a tug in her chest when she heard the news. She instantly agreed. "In that case, thank you for giving me this opportunity, old Mr. Queen. Don't worry. I will not let you down." Alfred responded with a joyful grin. At the same time, Jonathan secretly sighed in relief and immediately texted Lucian about the news. When Roxanne returned home from the Queen residence, Archie and Benny were already waiting for her in the house. Uncharacteristically, the two boys did not welcome Roxanne at the door that night. Instead, they were seated on the couch and seemed to be in low spirits. No one knew what was going on inside their minds. Roxanne tossed Lisa a look of confusion. Lisa shrugged helplessly in response. "They've been like this since I picked them up tonight." Archie and Benny had been playing happily with Estella. However, the three of them suddenly turned gloomy when they saw Lisa walking toward them. On their journey back home, it was evident that Archie and Benny were unhappy. Until then, their spirits had not been lifted. Roxanne was originally overjoyed and looking forward to the medical consultation by the Damaris family. However, when she saw the boys' dejected faces, the anticipation in her heart was quickly replaced by worry. "What happened today? Did you guys have a fight with your friends?" Roxanne probed gently as she took a seat next to Archie and Benny. Only when they heard the sound of her voice did the two boys look up at her. The disappointment was written all over their tiny faces. Roxanne's heart could not help but ache. "What happened? Would you like to tell me?" After a moment, Benny began to speak softly. "Mommy, why didn't you come to pick us up tonight?" Archie, on the other hand, merely looked at her with his lips pursed. Roxanne was dumbfounded. I had something to do tonight. Someone has helped to solve the problem with the research institute. I had to go visit and thank them." After that, she asked hesitantly, "Are you too unhappy because I didn't pick you guys up?" The two boys nodded in response. Roxanne seldom sent them to kindergarten. When she had done so that morning, the two boys thought that she would pick them up as well. Estella, too, had thought the same. Because of that, Estella had been extremely excited throughout the entire day. To their dismay, Roxanne was not the one to pick them up at night. When Estella saw Lisa, her eyes turned red in disappointment. Archie and Benny were upset at seeing the look on Estella's face. They knew that Estella liked Roxanne, and Roxanne had been avoiding Estella lately. Even though Estella would still play with Archie and Benny in kindergarten, they could clearly tell that she was unhappy. Estella was overjoyed when she finally got to see Roxanne that morning. Her unwillingness to part with Roxanne that morning did not get unnoticed by the two kids. Therefore, they were just as disappointed as Estella was when Roxana did not pick them up that night. Roxanne had no clue as to why Archie and Benny were upset. Lisa and Madeline had been sending them to kindergarten and picking them up previously because she had been busy, and the boys had never looked so disappointed before. Mommy, now that the issue with the research institute is settled, does that mean we're leaving the country soon? Benny asked carefully. He still remembered that Roxanne had told them that they would be leaving the country as soon as she finished her work in China. By then they would not be able to see Estella anymore. Likewise, Estella would not be able to meet Roxanne anymore either. At that thought, the two boys lowered their heads miserably. Hearing the boys mention the matter of leaving the country, Roxanne began to understand where the boys were coming from. Patting their heads gently, she flashed them a comforting smile. "And not yet. We might not be leaving so soon." The boys' eyes lit up. Really? Why?" Roxanne's smile widened. "There's still something I need to do, so we'll still be staying in China. You two will need to take good care of Essie in kindergarten." The two boys immediately bobbed their heads vigorously. The disappointment instantly vanished from their faces. As long as they were still in China, Estella would still have the chance to meet Roxanne. Once Archie and Benny were comforted, Roxanne breathed out a sigh of relief. After they finished eating, Roxanne sent Archie and Benny into their room before she entered the study. According to Alfred, the medical consultation held by the Damaris family was in 2 days. She needed to understand more about the consultation in advance. Before that, she had only heard of the medical consultations by the Damaris family, but she had never really looked into it, and neither had she imagined herself to be lucky enough to have the chance to participate in it. Since the unexpected opportunity had landed in her hands, she was determined to perform well. Without many leads for her to find out more about the process of the medical consultation, Roxanne could only use the most unreliable method, searching online, and hope for the best. If she were lucky, she would be able to get a glimmer of information. Unfortunately, the Damaris family was far too mysterious for the common men. Despite the fact that the Damaris family had held multiple medical consultations before, the information that could be obtained online was quite miserable. After a long while of searching but to no avail, Roxanne resorted to giving Harvey a call. Harvey answered the call in no time. Without beating around the bush, Roxanne asked, "Professor Lambert, do you know anything about the Damaris family?" Harvey was bewildered. The Damaris family withdrew themselves from society a few years ago. Why the sudden question? I heard that the Damaris family is having a medical consultation, so I was hoping to understand more about it. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of information regarding them online, which is why I'm asking you. I was hoping that you could provide some useful information, explained Roxanne succinctly. Upon hearing her explanation, Harvey responded with a hum before falling silent for a few seconds. After a while he replied, "I have been overseas all these years. Unfortunately, I do not know much about the Damaris family either. However, if you want to know more about the family, I can recommend an online forum. The contents of those forums usually revolve around prestigious families in the world of traditional medicine. Hope it helps." "Thank you, Professor Lambert," Roxanne replied with a smile. Harvey smiled without giving it much thought before changing the subject. "Didn't you say you'll be coming back soon? How are things going in China? Do you need my help?" Harvey was in the loop about what had happened to Roxanne's research institute. However, he could not be of much assistance because of the great distance between them. Nevertheless, he had long prepared a project for Roxanne. As soon as she returned, she could immediately start working. With an apologetic tone, Roxanne answered, "The issue with the research institute has been settled, but I think I'll be staying here for a while longer. I want to wait until the medical consultation with the Damaris family is over." If Roxanne could catch the attention of the Damaris family, her research institute would stand a chance to collaborate with them. Naturally, Roxanne would not let go of such an opportunity so easily. On the other end of the line, Harvey grunted with a smile. "But I'm here waiting for you to be part of my main force." Another wave of guilt hit Roxanne. "My apologies, Professor Lambert." Just as she was about to apologize, Harvey burst out laughing. "All right, I'm just kidding. I allowed you to go back to China because I was hoping that you would hone your skills in traditional medicine when you were there. Since such a golden opportunity has befallen you, as your professor, of course I want to wish you the best. I hope you perform well during the consultation. Don't embarrass me." Roxanne's lips curled into an obedient smile. "Don't worry. I'll do my absolute best. Don't worry about me here. Whenever you plan to come back, just give me a ring," said Harvey sincerely. Roxanne was touched. "Thank you, Professor." After that, Harvey continued asking about Archie and Benny out of concern. Knowing that the boys were doing fine, Harvey finally hung up the phone in relief. Roxanne wasted no time at all in opening the forum that Harvey had recommended. At first glance, the forum looked a little old. However, a lot of the posts were posted only a few minutes ago. Most of them were discussing the medical consultation by the Damaris family. Roxanne opened the thread one by one and browsed through the contents. A lot of people on the forum had attached their resumes on the forum in hopes of standing a chance to participate in the medical consultation with the Damaris family. From the looks of it, everyone had an impressive background. The more she browsed, the more Roxanne felt the need to work hard and perform well. If not, she would be disappointing all those who tried but did not get the chance to participate in the consultation. Only when she had scrolled till the very end did she see some information regarding the previous medical consultation held by the Damaris family. It was revealed by an anonymous participant in the last medical consultation. Roxanne read the post word by word twice. By the time she finished reading, she could almost memorize the whole thing. According to the anonymous doctor, every time the Damaris family organized a medical consultation, they usually targeted congenital diseases. The venue of the consultation would be abandoned orphanages or children's homes. They would give free medical consultations to the children there, and the consultation would usually last 3 days. In every medical consultation held by the Damaris family, all the participants were highly achieved doctors of traditional medicine within the country. Not only so, but the Damaris family themselves would send their younger family members to take part in the consultation. Even though they were the juniors of the Damaris family, their medical skills were enough to make others gasp in awe. Their skills were definitely worthy of respect. Of all the years of medical consultation, many children who had been abandoned because of their congenital diseases had finally gotten their treatment. Some of them had even made it to the front covers of newspapers. However, the Damaris family was not mentioned in the papers. That proved how low-key the Damaris family was despite their astonishing achievements. Not only was Roxanne a mother herself, but she also had a child who had passed away too early. Perhaps that was the reason why Roxanne had always had a soft spot for children. After Roxanne learned about the target groups for the medical consultation, her admiration for the Damaris family increased. To add to their admirable traits, the Damaris family had managed to investigate and come up with treatment plans for certain congenital diseases from those medical consultations. Their treatment plans had received so many positive results that they served as the gold standard in the traditional medical industry. In the past few years, tens of thousands of children with congenital diseases had been treated every year because of the methods devised by the Damaris family, especially those complicated congenital diseases that put all famous doctors from all over the world at a loss. As of then, tens of thousands of children getting treated every year sounded like a fantasy. As Roxanne continued to research, the excitement in her heart to meet the Damaris family grew. Among the list of diseases that the Damaris family had found the treatment for, Roxanne had researched some of them herself. However, just as her research was about to yield results, the treatment for those diseases appeared out of nowhere. Roxanne had carefully investigated the reliability and facts of the treatment. Upon finding out that it was reliable, she gave up on her own research. At the same time, she respected the party who had come up with the treatment. However, never did she imagine it to be the Damaris family. It was no wonder that the Damaris family managed to keep their legacy for generations upon generations. Purely because the Damaris family had contributed so much to children, Roxanne yearned to have a good relationship with the Damaris family. After all, she was someone who had lost a child. There was no one else who valued those precious little lives more than Roxanne. For a moment, Roxanne sat in silence, wallowing in her emotions. A few minutes later, she recollected herself and clicked on other posts. After browsing through most of the posts, Roxanne learned the basic flow of the medical consultation, which served as preparation for the consultation in a few days' time. Roxanne was so immersed in reading about the Damaris family that she did not notice that it was past midnight. When she finished reading about the Damaris family, it was almost 1 o'clock in the morning. At the thought of work tomorrow, Roxanne reluctantly switched off her laptop and left the study. After a quick wash-up, Roxanne lay in bed with her mind still buzzing about the medical consultation. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.